All right, guys, in this video, I'm going to give you another quick recap of what the exam is going to look like, and then I'm going to go more in depth on how to write the argument essay FRQ, the other type of FRQ that you're going to have to write on the exam this year. So what you're seeing on the screen is, again, our date and time. So the AP Government exam is on Monday, May 11th, and you're all taking it at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So like I've already told you many times, make sure that that date and time are written down or in your phone, and share this with your family. Make sure that you've got a location in the house where you're going to do this, where you have good internet access, Wi-Fi connection is strong, you won't be disturbed, you have room, maybe have room for paper and pen handy, and of course your Chromebook fully charged, plugged in, ready to go. Test all these things. All the assignments I've been giving you lately in AP Classroom are designed to kind of make sure you've got all this situated so that we don't have any glitches on that exam day. Now, you should also be checking your emails. The College Board is going to be reaching out to you a little bit more. They are going to send you an email that will give you, I think they're calling it an exam ticket. It's going to kind of give you the information you need to log into the exam. So keep checking those things. And if I hear that they're on their way or that you should have received them, I'll let you know. So again, let's get ready for this exam. I'd also start to tell your family, your brothers, sisters, on that day during that, let's say that hour when you're taking the exam, not quite an hour. Ask everybody to be off the Wi-Fi, phones, other computers, television, if you're dependent on Wi-Fi, just kind of let the internet be all yours that day for that hour. Okay, again, the exam is going to last you about 45 minutes. You're going to write 2 FRQs. The first one you write will be this argument essay that we're going to talk about today. You'll have 25 minutes to read the prompt, think and plan your response, and then type your answer. I've been telling my history students this too. 25 minutes may not seem like a lot of time, and it's not, although the exam is, or the question is a little bit condensed. But I really do believe if you spend 4 or 5 minutes of that time seriously thinking about the question, deep breath, think about the question, make some notes on what you're going to say, you can actually write it pretty quickly. When you start to write too soon and you don't really know what you're saying, and then you're a little bit confused and you're not sure if that's a good response, then you could have all the time in the world. You're still going to write a bad essay. So this is why we're doing this practice. Do what I'm telling you to do. Don't be afraid during practice to take some risks. And I think this will help you write a good essay. Okay. So that first one is going to last 25 minutes. Then they're going to give you 5 minutes to upload it. Then you'll write the second one. That's the concept application, which we've already been working on. 15 minutes for that one and 5 minutes to upload. So the argument essay, the one that we're working on now, that's worth 60% of your exam score. So I think I put this in the assignment as well. There's 7 points you can earn in this argument essay. And so at 60%, that means each point of the essay is nearly 10% of your entire exam score. So just kind of keep that in mind. Each additional point you can earn is 10% more you're gaining on your exam score. Can we afford to miss a point, maybe 2? Sure, and you could still probably get a good score on the exam. But we don't want to do that. But keep in mind that we want to earn every point possible. Okay, I feel very confident that we can do this condensed version of the exam and the strange circumstances we find ourselves in. The College Board knows that. I think they're going to be friendly to us to some extent. But I think you guys are going to be really well prepared to really knock this out of the park. So I hope you're gaining that confidence. And as even if we were back at school, one of the things I'd remind you is as soon as this exam's over, it's all over. Okay, no more assignments, no more lessons, you don't have to listen to me anymore. So just let's gear up for these next couple of weeks and do the best we can on this exam. And then come July, when scores start rolling in, we'll be pleased with the result. Okay, this is a page that I've shared with you before that explains the entire exam. I'll try to link it again for you. Down here, though, it does have a link to the scoring guidelines for this modified argument essay. So I'm going to show you that and walk you through that now. And I will, I'll also be attaching this as kind of a separate link in the assignment so you can look at it. And really, I'm going to walk you through it kind of quickly. This is overly complicated. It is not this complicated, okay? It's pretty simple. So pay more attention to what I'm telling you about it. If you want to look at it yourself, certainly you can, but don't be overwhelmed by it. So the first point of the 7 that we're going to earn is for our claim or thesis. So you're going to have a prompt that is going to be somewhat debatable. There is, I said this to you when we were together and we first met the argument essay. There is no wrong answer and there is no right answer, okay? This is an argument you're making. So no matter which point of view you take in this question, you can be right and you can defend it. So as you're planning your response, worry less, I would say, about your actual opinion. So I'm going to show you the question we're going to practice with and that you're going to write for me this week in a minute. I don't really care what you think. If you have the time to ponder it, you might come up with a strong feeling about this question. Really, for purposes of this exam, who cares? Just make sure that the argument you make, the claim you make, is one you can defend, okay? As long as you can defend it, whether you believe it or not, it doesn't matter. Now, the first point is for that claim or thesis, and they're calling it row A. You don't necessarily have to label it part A, but I think we've been doing that all year, and that's wise. Do this first, okay? Give the thesis first. Now, this may require a couple sentences. If you notice what it's saying here, we'll go here. You cannot just restate the prompt, and certainly can't make a claim that doesn't respond to the prompt. What they're looking for is a response that not only is defensible, that you can defend. This is key right here. I'll try to highlight it. It's a response that establishes a line of reasoning, okay? So when we look at the example, I'll kind of clarify what that means, but you're going to be asked to choose between 2 or 3 options, which one you think best fits. And if you haven't already, remember, dig out the one sample argument essay that I gave to you. We were all together not too long ago, and kind of look at that one. You had 3 options in that question about what the framers intended by way of creating our democratic republic. I think it was participatory, was it elitist, and I forget the third option. But nevertheless, you don't get the point just for picking one of the options, okay? Anybody could just pick one of the options. They don't have to know the first thing about government. You're only going to get this point if in your response you establish a line of reasoning. What that means is you have to begin to explain why, or in what way you think that is the best choice. So again, I'll show you, maybe I should switch over here. I'm going to show you the question, and I'll show you what I mean by establishing a line of reasoning. So this is the question you're going to be writing this week. Once again, you're going to receive in AP Classroom a full exam, but I'm only asking you to write one of the 4 questions. So this is question number 4. Okay, I put that in the assignment. It should be pretty clear. So let's look at what the question says here. It says, equality of opportunity is a central value in the American political system. Choose either Congress or the Supreme Court. So see, there are your 2 options. And present an argument for why your choice, why one of those 2 institutions of government is most responsible for advancing the principle of equality of opportunity in the United States. Okay, so the first thing I would tell you that you have to do is you have to stop and think, what is meant by equality of opportunity? Now, this is in your notes, and we've talked about this early in the year, and then we just saw this again in the notes recently. I purposely chose this because I thought it matched up with things we had just learned in Unit 7. But think about those terms, equal opportunity. Well, to me, I would say, what are the opportunities that we believe should be equal? And then as you start to think more specifically, don't think about this generically, like, okay, equal opportunity, everybody has the same opportunities. But what does that look like in the American political system? What are some of the key opportunities that we believe should be equal? Okay, hopefully, if you're thinking of some of the cases, some of the laws that we just studied, particularly in this last lesson or two, where we talked about the Equal Protection Clause, right? Hopefully you're starting to think of some of those opportunities that maybe weren't equal, but have been made equal recently or in the last few decades. I'm not going to give this all away to you, but I'm definitely, hopefully, hinting strongly as to where you might want to go. Now, when you think about those things, who's more responsible for advancing that, Congress or the courts? Now, if you really think about it, they both are, okay? And that's why I say there's not a right or a wrong answer here, okay? What they're really just asking is, what do you know? And do you tend to know more laws passed by Congress or cases decided by the Supreme Court that promoted the equality of opportunity? And then go with it, okay? But again, back to our rubric, we need to establish a line of reasoning. So we cannot simply say Congress did. Congress is more responsible for advancing equal opportunity. My thing that I think you should keep in mind is hear a little voice, hear Timmy's voice, remember, our little 3-year-old saying, why, or how, or in what ways. So are there a couple, or at least one, but maybe a couple opportunities that Congress or the courts have been responsible for advancing? Then work that into your thesis. Because Congress passed laws that gave people more equal opportunities to fill in the blank, Congress is more responsible. Okay, so that's what we want. They want to see that you've got a line of reasoning, some a rationale for choosing this. You didn't just flip a coin and say, oh, heads Congress, tails the courts. You have actual thoughts that show a knowledge of government that you can use to support your claim. And then later on in your essay, you're going to kind of come back to that. Okay, you're probably going to mention those laws, or those court cases, that type of thing. Okay. All right. We're going to move down to what they call row B. So that was 1 point for the thesis or the claim. 1 of 7. Really, all the remaining 6 are tied up with your evidence now. They break this down, and like I said, I think they make this a little bit more complicated than it needs to be. We're going to focus on getting the max points. So you're going to get, at first, at least for what they call row B evidence, you're going to get 4 points out of 4 possible if you use 2 pieces of specific and relevant evidence. Now, remember, specific and relevant evidence means it conforms to the question. So here you see that you need your evidence to come from, or at least one piece to come from one of these foundational documents. And then a second piece of evidence must be from any other foundational document not used. So if you use the 14th Amendment, well, then maybe you'll use one of these other two things, Article 1 or Federal 78. It says, or it may be from your knowledge of course concepts. So they're basically saying you can use just about anything you know. Okay. But the key to the argument essay is they always want to see that one of your pieces of evidence is coming from those foundational documents. Okay, that's what they're probably most interested in seeing. So you're getting 4 points if you use two pieces of evidence that work. You're not just mentioning them. So notice here where it says 1 point or 2 points. They would give you 1 or 2 points just for providing evidence that's relevant. Like, all right, I guess this court case somehow relates to equality of opportunity. I'll mention that court case. All right, maybe they'll give you a point if it's relevant. You're going to get the 4 points, or you're going to get those extra points if you're using the evidence, not just identifying it, but using it to support your claim. Okay, so it's not just relevant and related, but you see how that evidence actually supports the claim that you are making. You know, that the courts were more responsible for equality of opportunity, and in this case the court said this or the court did this, and the effect of that decision is what gave these people equal opportunity. Okay, so you're using that evidence to support the claim. Now, scrolling down, going to what they call Part C or Row C. Row C, they call reasoning. And for the last 2 points we need, it says you're explaining how or why the evidence supports the claim or thesis. Now, I'm going to be honest with you, I don't see a huge difference between using it to support the claim and then explaining how it supports the claim. Do you see a difference? I think as long as you are first and foremost identifying specific evidence that works, describing it a little bit. So if it is a law or it is a court case, are you telling us a little bit about it? Then this is the most important part, because to me, it's the difference between getting, if you think about the evidence and the explanation, all this part, the thesis was 1 point, but then all the evidence and you're using it to support your claim, that's 6 more points. I think the heart of that is the explanation. So I'm going to, again, plead with you. Be thorough in your explanation. Talk to Timmy. Talk to that little 3-year-old who doesn't know what these cases are, know what these laws are, understand what an equal opportunity looks like, and certainly doesn't understand how this particular case or this particular law extended equality of opportunity. Tell that story. Develop it well in several short sentences and keep going. If you don't feel like it's clear yet, keep going. I also think it's always a good idea when you're writing anything, an essay or an FRQ or anything, keep rereading the question, okay? Every so often, go back to that prompt, I guess it's here, and ask yourself, what is it that I'm doing, okay? I'm trying to prove that Congress or the Supreme Court, whichever one I've chosen, is more responsible for advancing the principle of equality of opportunity. I got to make sure I show what that is, okay? So, I hope that helps you kind of see how you want to do this. I know that, we have not practiced these really at all this year. We were just about to when school ended. So look at the example I've already given you on one of these. Don't be afraid with this one. This one is kind of the practice one. We are going to do another one of these, and if somehow possible, maybe one more after that. But follow what I'm saying here. If you feel it necessary, look at this rubric and see this. Like the last couple of FRQs, I will not only get your results to you pretty quickly, I'll give you some samples to show you how it's done. I'll point out some common mistakes. You got to utilize that so that you can grow and improve your own. I thought of one other thing, and I know I put this in the assignment, but if you remember, and you probably forgot already, there was one last part to the argument essay. They were calling it row D, an alternative perspective, and that's where you were to then kind of show how, well, I argued the court, but there is good evidence to suggest Congress is also responsible. This year, for this modified exam, they are eliminating that, okay? So you're not doing that at all, and they make very clear there will be no points awarded for this. You are wasting your time if you do this. So do not do it, okay? So if you were wondering, do we have to do that part? No. When you look at the question that I'm giving you, it does have that in it, okay? But this is a typical argument essay question, not one modified for this year's exam. So don't do it. I do not want you to even practice it. If we're not doing it on May 11th, we're not going to practice it. I'm not going to score it. I'm not going to read it. Don't worry about that at all. Your score will be based on the first 7 points, not this last part, okay? And I just thought of a question some of you might have had. It says choose either Congress or the Supreme Court. Would it make sense to do one for each? The answer is no. This question is asking you to choose either one and then develop 2 pieces of evidence in support of that. So don't talk about both. I thought of that because Part D you would now say, well, I can make a case for the other one as well. We're not doing that in this year's version, okay? Now, keep in mind, too, one last thing. You might say, well, if I'm choosing Congress or the Supreme Court, and if you said maybe evidence for the Supreme Court would be a court decision, what does that have to do with these documents? Well, here's where you got to, think about this a little bit. If you're arguing that Congress is more responsible, you're probably going to use as your document Article 1 of the Constitution, because that's the article that deals with Congress and its powers. So think first about, well, what does Article 1 say about Congress's powers? And then more specifically, how has Congress used that power to advance equality of opportunity? Okay. It's possible you could even, with Congress, use the 14th Amendment. And with the courts, if you're arguing the courts, you're probably going to think of specific court cases. But you're going to want to tie them back to either the 14th Amendment or the powers of the court or things Hamilton said about the courts in Federalist 78. Okay, so remember, you do have to use one of those documents. You might end up using 2 of them. Think about what those documents say, and then try to think of, maybe some specific evidence, whether it be a law or a court case that advanced equal opportunity that's rooted in those documents, right? Like all the other practice FRQs, if you have questions about this before you write it, you can ask those in office hours. But like I said, give this a shot. See how you do. Don't be afraid to make a mistake here in practice, and then we'll work on that. And we'll get better for next time. Okay. Hope this helped.